Tonight, we bring you a story of children in fear. John Wayne Gacy only wishes he had these kind of opportunities. The young man in question will not say the exact location of the events that took place, but he will say it all happened in the Bald Hills in Washington State. It's filled with forests and woods, and the Deschutes River runs through it. The river was just behind his house. Across a field, they would generally keep their horses. Around the river was all rocky terrain, and just behind that, endless woods. There were very few houses around there. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. This all happened back when he was in the 4th grade. The house was occupied by 5 heads, 6 including a friend. The young man, his 3 brothers, his oldest sister, she was the only one who could drive, and a friend. Their dad was a truck driver, so he was gone for long periods of time, and their mother lost the battle to cancer when he was 5 years old. So they invited their friend out after school to spend the weekend. He brought his PS2, and they were ready to pull all-nighters on GTA Vice City. Well, something else decided to change that. When it was night, he and his friend decided to go outside. While they were outside in the yard, they began to hear footsteps in the driveway, which was very odd. The yard was surrounded by a chain-link fence and 2 gates on different points of the yard. So while staying in the yard, they did their best to try and see if they could spot who was there, while remaining in hiding. They couldn't see anything. It was much too dark, though they did manage to make out something wandering around in the driveway. It was a fairly large driveway. It led up a steep hill. His friend bottled up the courage and yelled out to it, saying that it was on private property, which may have been a mistake. The footsteps stopped for a few seconds, then started towards them. He looked to his friend's face, nothing but shock. Whoever or whatever was walking around. It didn't say anything. It just started walking towards them. They bolted inside, speaking faster than their minds could think, telling everyone of what was happening. His sister was sleeping at the time, and they didn't want to bother her, but he and his friend were freaking out, and his 3 brothers were becoming a little concerned as well. So they woke up his sister and told her to call the police. She just got pissed off because she figured they were losing it and told them to leave her alone, that she had work in the morning. She eventually gave in and grabbed the dogs. They had 5 and went outside with a flashlight to look around. She put on her rubber boots and jacket and went outside and walked around to prove them wrong. She walked out of the yard and around the outside of the chain-linked fence. The young boy and his friend waited on the deck, watching her. She walked by an old woodshed, and then it happened. A blood-curdling scream coming from inside the woods, just behind the woodshed, raised the hairs on his neck and struck him with fear. His sister immediately shined the flashlight in the woodshed. He and his friend ran inside. His sister came in a little after that, assuming it was just a raccoon and that she didn't see anything else. That put them all at ease, and they went off to play GTA. No more than an hour later, they began to hear some footsteps in the mud around the house. They all froze again. His sister, already back to bed, they didn't want to wake her again. They paused the game, not making a move. The footprints made their way on the deck of the house, and they walked by the sliding glass door. They weren't steps like shoes or boots, more like padding, like feet. His oldest brother said they should all go into the basement and hide out in his room. They did just that, and they all grabbed a weapon of some kind, let it be a baseball bat or a kitchen knife. They all hung out in his oldest brother's room, and he eventually fell asleep. When he woke up, it was morning. He was very afraid to look outside through the windows, for fear of something looking at him. He finally managed to build up the courage to look, and nothing was outside. He and his brothers and his friend explored outside to see what they could find. They found several footprints in the mud, and their picnic table was smashed to pieces. The gate was bent and wouldn't open anymore. His dad had to fix them. They explored the back parts of the woods just by the house, and what they saw, which wasn't there before, was a little teepee made of sticks. They'd kick it down, and it kept getting rebuilt the next day or 2. From that day on, they have been very frightened to explore the woods out there. However, one day, a few years later, just before they moved, he was outside in the dark, alone. The only sound was the sound of the rushing river and some wind rustling the large pine trees. He was in the backyard alone, leaning up against the chain-linked fence, with his flashlight peering into the field behind the house, seeing if he could see anything interesting. Then he caught two glares, a pair of eyes from inside the woods. They were focused on him and took several steps forward and stopped. His flashlight wasn't very powerful, so all he saw was some eye glares. It was roughly 20 to 30 feet away from him, but it was definitely close enough to get him startled. For a long time, he just stood there, shining his flashlight at it as it stared back at him. He was too scared to go up and look at it close up. So over a time, he turned around and headed back inside. That was the last time he saw the creature of the Bald Hills.